I think time management and motivation are there's those things that it's like hard to define, but you know it when you see it. You know when a student is or is not using time management strategies. You know when a student is or is not motivated, but nailing down a definition can be a bit tricky. So we're going to use just a very general definition. This is just coming right out of the dictionary. The practice of using the time you have available in a useful and effective way, especially in your work. And even though this definition is a little vague, it is a fantastic one because it ties directly into the executive function paradigm that Dr. Meltzer and the SMARTS team use, and that is the center of this conference, right? Like, how do we get students to develop effective and efficient strategies to accomplish what they need to accomplish? That's the hallmark of successful executive function strategy use. We break down time management into four components, right? Understanding time, prioritizing time, short-term planning, long-term planning. And as with all things in executive function, if you lock 10 EF researchers in a room, you get 10 different breakdowns of 10 different concepts. So this is not like set in stone. These are categories that you can understand and that your student can understand. So I'm going to go through them really quickly, and then we'll use these as a foundation to talk about time management strategies as we go. That first one, understanding time, I think is often overlooked. When we talk about understanding time, we're trying to build students' awareness that there's a difference between how time feels and how time is measured. And a lot of students get caught up in how time feels. This will take forever. I'll do it in a second. I'm almost done. Uh, those are how time feels, and that can really let us get sucked into, the time flies, the time drags when it's boring. We don't really have an ability to manage time if we are stuck with the feeling of time. We need to build students' ability to measure time using time. The next stage is prioritizing time, the ability to look at all the different things you have to do and to rank them. I'm going to get this done here, this done here, this done here. And that is a skill that really develops as students advance through the grades, but it becomes the bedrock. It becomes, a lot of students, their biggest challenge is getting started, and prioritizing is where we can really address that. When we talk about short-term planning, we're talking about planning your day, right? Or maybe your weekend. A short window of time that you can hold in your head and you can kind of fit in tasks like Legos or building blocks, right? The ability to understand how much time you have, to understand what you can get done in that time, and to plan it in a way that is going to be productive and efficient for you. And then finally, long-term planning is when we're planning across a week or a month or longer if our students have that developmental window of time. The ability to take a research paper or a large test, break it into steps, and schedule it so that we're not doing it all at the last minute. So you can see how those components of time management build on each other, and they help students develop a full range of time management tools. The ability to organize and prioritize time is the foundation of the way that most of us use executive function in our everyday life. This is how adults survive. We talk about in Smarts, we call them our EF, our adult superpowers, right? Like that's what allows us to make sure we get out the morning with our cup of coffee on time. Plus, we know we got to do taxes in a few months. Plus, we're working on this certain, English project with our colleague. Plus, we're trying to eat healthier. Plus, we got to fix the car. Plus, our goal to eat healthier fell off the wagon. We got to get back on there. Every time you engage with that sort of work, you're engaging in prioritizing with short-term planning, long-term planning, and you do it kind of naturally after a while, I think. But you develop those skills by engaging with those EF processes and developing those strategies. So there's a big gap between what students think time management is and why they think it's important. They think it's like a trick that we invented just to annoy them, versus what it actually is, which is a part of the working engine that keeps adults juggling their sophisticated and sometimes very challenging lives. So, how are we going to connect to that benefit, right? It's essential that we teach students how to use strategies to get ready for their future as not just fancy adults, honestly, but productive middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students, wherever they end up, we know they're going to need this stuff. Okay. So let's dig into that gap though, because I want to make sure we don't we know better, right? We know how important time management is. We are expert learners, right? We have fully developed, prefrontal cortex, we have a lot of background knowledge on what these strategies look like. So it's easy for us to be like, oh, kids never using planners, what goofballs. Instead, let's try to understand where that's coming from a little bit more, because that's going to allow us to really get them to be empowered. If I, run my classroom with an iron fist like a tyrant, which is tempting at times, and I force them to write in their planner every day, but I never, which is not a bad idea, I'm not knocking that. But if you never get into the student's perspective, you never talk about self-understanding and how does it align to your goals, that's not executive function. It's doing what you're told. So we're going to peek now into their brain and their attitudes towards times management. And we're going to see how we can bring them to a deeper understanding, more practical understanding of the importance of time management. So this is a real quiz, I have a eighth grade homeroom, and here's a real, this is one of the first day of schools. Do you use a planner? And predominantly they said no, and then some of them said no and teal. No, I'm just kidding. I stole that from some meme somewhere. But the overwhelming response was no. Of course we don't use a planner. And like I said, there's a portal. I can just remember it all. I definitely don't need a planner. And these are eighth graders who all of them really do care about their academics and their performance in school, but no, I don't need a planner for that. So there's a huge gap there, okay? And if you dig into it, you kind of hear some things like this. My teachers don't make me. Last year the science teacher made me, but he's not in the school anymore. I don't have to do it. I can just remember everything. It's all in the portal era, like we talked about. You only need a planner if you're not doing well, right? You only need a planner if you're failing. Or I tried using a planner one time, it didn't help me. Okay, I lost it, or I just didn't use it. Okay. And these all represent, attitudes that are coming from a real lived experience. So I'm not saying these students are wrong, but we need to help them get past these things, right? These are only a small sliver of the true importance and the true process of understanding and developing time management skills. So, time management can be broken down into these EF related areas: understanding time, prioritizing, short term planning, long term planning. And we can discuss time management strategies and teach time management strategies in all those areas. Technology is radically altering the way that students engage with time management tools in the portal era. And even though many, many students are not fans of time management, there are students who are actively engaging, and we should always keep them in mind as we look for ways to get more students on board with time management. Okay?